What I've been loving about sitting in rehearsals for Peter Rabbit is the amount of adventure and excitement and intrigue and mystery and real danger that is alive in these stories. But at the same time, there's tons of room for imagination and play. The actors are up there playing and imagining their hearts out, but there's a lot of space for me to imagine as I'm watching. The adventure and the imagination are really alive with Peter Rabbit.
Enchantment has looked for stories that are about self-illumination, self-discovery, and the journey toward self-awareness.
Peter Rabbit is a great choice of stories for Enchantment because it's about growing up, it's about being brave, it's about overcoming fear and doubt, growing to live in one's power, to realize what's important in life, that family is important, friends are important.
So those kind of transformative stories we think are incredibly uplifting for kids to experience and kind of understand and know. So we're always drawn to that kind of work.
When we first choose a story or are exploring a story, the three of us artistic directors sits down.
We sit around my kitchen table or their kitchen table and we talk and write things down until the thing begins to emerge.
We tell the story many, many times for each other until we identify what it is about that particular story that moves us. And once we discover that, we can begin to figure out how we particularly will be able to tell the story so that it moves the audience.
Because very often the stories are literary and we want them to become dramatic, and they're not always the same thing.
As often is the case with light and design, right, where we are very much reacting to what a lot of the other creators are doing.
Because of the artistry of Beatrix Potter as a visual artist, there's a lot there to inspire the music making, things to look at that really inspire me to respond in music and sound.
What I do is try to make the mask and the movement and the puppets and the costumes just look really clear.
So often the movements of the animals translate into rhythms and sounds that then show up in the score.
Almost all my work is based on David Russell's imagination, designing the sets and the costumes.
Except for lighting, I'm doing everything else. I'm designing the costumes, the scenery, the puppets, the props, all the visual elements.
Really, it's reacting to what the set design is and what the style of the choreography is.
We were all sort of working on the script together. So it was from that first meeting and sort of gathering of stories and ideas that I then started to think about how those characters would be embodied.
And I was able to actually go to the archive in London and look at the original illustrations and hold them. So that was very inspiring. So it's sort of finding that inspiration.
It's the first time that the Beatrix Potter Foundation has released the rights to have a children's theater company perform the show, and so that feels like an honor.
And we know we're going to use masks, so what do those masks look like? And that's the first thing I started on, was designing the masks and what they could be.
A lot of what I do is coaching them how to use masks. It's for a lot of them, it's the first time that they've worked with masks.
So it was first the masks, then the base look, and then what do those characters need to say who they are.
I feel like my role is to keep track of the actors' consistency.
Basically honoring Beatrix Potter, and then how can we make those stories an Enchantment Theater story as opposed to just a Beatrix Potter retelling.
A lot of what I do in the room is seeing what the actors bring to the table as well, and so many of them are such embodied performers anyway that I feel like I'm almost more of a finesser.
You should be excited to see Peter Rabbit because it's a great adventure and you get to meet animals coming to life on stage.
You should come to see Peter Rabbit Tales because at the end of the story, we promise you that you'll feel better about yourself and the people who are closest to you.
Do you like animals? Do you ever pretend like what it might be like to be able to play with the animals like as another animal? Like what it might be like to be a bunny rabbit or to be a dog or whatever. And so when you come to see the show, you're going to see people just like you pretending to be these characters and bringing these characters to life and telling a story just like you might with your friends at home.